Okay, so welcome back from the break. This morning we heard from Mr. Kang, who opened the seminar with heartfelt reflections on the value of family history, followed by Mr. Brian Edwards' practical approach to starting with what you know, and Mr. Eric Leach's insightful session on memory books and visual storytelling. We hope you found their sessions both informative and inspiring as you begin or continue your own family history journey. We're honored to now hear from Ms. Clara Poh, Archivist at the National Archives of Singapore. Clara works with key historical records that form the foundation of our national memory, including immigration data, birth and death registers, and official correspondences. In this session, she'll guide us through how to access these records, interpret them, and use them to trace individual and family histories. These primary documents are invaluable for anyone serious about genealogical accuracy. The National Archives has long played a vital role in preserving Singapore's story, and Clara will show how each of us can use their collections to tell our own. Please welcome Ms. Clara Poh.
My name is Clara. I'm actually from the National Archives of Singapore. Sorry. Yes. So we will just touch on some of the records that you can use from the National Archives collection and also from the National Library. Why we say the National Library is because we are also an institute of the National Library. So we will also share with you some of the collections that you can also use for your family history research, and then some of the other resources that you may want to tap on while doing your family history research. So just to give a brief overview, this is what I'll be covering today. Hopefully, it can be quite intensive of data, but hopefully with some of the redacted records that we were allowed to show you all today, hopefully it'll give you a better visual idea of what you can expect should you get the approval to read the record. Yeah. So we'll now just proceed with the records from the National Archives itself, our collection. So first of all, commonly past family history researchers who have visited us, they have used the photographs database to try to find any actual photographs of like the family member that they're looking for. So keyword search, they will use like the person's name or like the alias name or the abbreviated name. Yeah, so these are actually some of the family portraits that can be found like in our collection. Yeah. And then next of all, which is probably one of our more popular databases, oral history. So oral history, a lot of the researchers also used to use these to get background information on the places that their family used to live at, or basically to see if like they can find like an interview of their family member. Some researchers also managed to get information about their family member through like somebody else's interview, because it just happened that they know each other. Yeah. So the 6 QR codes here, I'm just going to go back a bit. The 6 QR codes here are actually also the 6 commonly used projects that past researchers have used intensively to try to find more information about their family members. Yeah, so these are the, actually I'll just give you a few minutes to, yeah. Okay, then moving on. So moving on for our collection for maps and building plans. Researchers also have used this database basically to search for where their family used to stay at. So like maps is just sort of like to give them an idea of so this is like the area they used to stay at. This is like geographically how the place might have been like. And then because some families also, I think they had commissioned or owned their own residences, so like they commissioned their own like bungalows or mansion, that kind. Like this example here shown, it's actually a mansion that's built like towards the Bukit Cermin Hill there. Yeah, so this is the actual building plan itself. So building plans also, you can get quite a lot of information, because one, because you probably know which family member in the family tree is the one who commissioned to build the mansion. Sometimes also it'll give you more information on like how the mansion was located at. So like this corner here is actually more of like a geographical information. Yeah, so it's to kind of give you a better idea of like the kind of environment that they will probably have lived at. Yeah. And going next. Okay, so for our private records collection, it's split into 2 different categories in a sense that because we do get donations from different type of donors, essentially. So majorly the ones that most researchers have used before while building their family tree history research, right, is from the religious organizations, so like your churches, temples. We do have some. And then we also have a collection of like clan associations. So these are the type of records that you can find from our collection. Yeah. I'm just going to show you some samples that we were allowed to show today. Okay, so we do have some of the private collections for like membership registers, burial registers. So for this burial register is apparently from another private organization. And then this particular burial register is actually from the St. Andrew's Cathedral. Yeah, so you'll notice a lot of the common identifying info you can get is like the person's name, and then like what did they used to do. So like for this particular one, you can tell like what was his profession back then, when was he buried, and then like cause of death, that kind of thing. So it really depends on like the type of like the info that you will have already found while doing the research. Yeah. So another example we have, again, archivists can't deal with technical issues. Okay, yeah, so one other quite popular type of registers also we have is like marriage registers. So marriage registers, a lot of it we have from the churches as well. So like, for example, if you kind of like know where that particular family member you're looking for, like if you know which church you're married at, it's like this is something you might want to tap on. So like, when you search with our online catalog, you basically search with the church name, and then you also narrow down to like, which year did they get married at? Yeah, so like you'll notice the fields also same thing. When did they get married? Well, the name of the parties basically. How old were they? What was their profession? Residence at the time of marriage, and then also you'll know like the couple's like fathers' names. Yeah. So you can get quite a number of information already just from the actual like record. Like we'll consider it raw data, right? Yeah. And then we also have some people who like to come by and ask for like baptism registers. Yeah. So baptism registers, roughly is this type of information you also can get from the record. But also naturally, because these are private donations, right? Most of the time, you will obviously also need prior approval from the organization themselves. So normally, like if anyone who reaches out to us, say, hey, can I just read like this marriage register from say St. Andrew's Cathedral? So normally we will advise the person, please get permission from them first. Then if they give you the permission and approval, then you can come back and then basically access the record. Yeah, because at the end of the day, they are still they still own the records. So in essentially, we have like viewing rights. So we have like the viewing copies of like said records. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So burial and cemetery records. Okay. So for burial and cemetery records, I would say that if you're using or you're trying to search from our collection, we would say the keywords you might want to use is the name of the cemetery you're looking for. We do have some burial registers, but then again, because there's like this situation of like, we have one whole collection that is basically from the ministries. So that's why in a sense they're like government records, right? But we also have one whole other collection that is from the private organizations. So like the common one we normally get is also from the churches. So in the sense of like access and then like waiting time, like whether you can get approval, it definitely varies very differently. Yeah, but for the Bukit Brown burial registers, if anyone is looking for Bukit Brown, actually the online portal that we had opened previously because of the building of the highway is actually still accessible, the link. So if you want, you can take note of the link now. Yeah, so for that one, the registers are actually the redacted versions, but it's sufficient enough for you to at least locate like that family member's name and to basically find like where he's being buried. So actually that screenshot here is a sample of what the online version looks like if you go to that portal to find. So this is what it actually looks like. Yeah. Yeah, I'm just going to go next. Okay. So registry of businesses and companies. This one, we will say if you happen to know that family member used to own his own business or company, right? On our collection, our online collection portal, you would want to search it with that shop's like name or the company's name. and then see if there's any search results you get from the government records database. So basically, the online portal we have, there's like 8 databases, essentially. Yeah, so these records, like these types, right, is normally found under the government records database lah. Yeah. So this is also just a sample of what like the registry will look like. So if you can tell, you have like the, my God, why is this so blurred? Okay, yeah, you have like the full name of the person who was like the proprietor, and then like, I think this particular record, because it's a Chinese business, I think, so like they also had like the Chinese names of like the person's Chinese name there, and then yeah, other information like when did they start business, when did they withdraw, that kind of thing. So yeah, so easily you can already find some information already about the person you're looking for through the. But this is again, of course, if you happen to know if that family member used to own a business So this is one type of record you might want to try to find. Okay, so blue books. Okay, blue books basically they are what we refer to at the archives as like straight settlements records. This is basically records where if you're like so during the colonial period where we were still a British colony, yeah. So the reason why it's called blue books is apparently the books were literally blue in color So that's the only reason There's no other much significance. It's just that apparently the books themselves were blue. So for these, right, you will want to use this if you happen to know your family members were in the colonial service. So basically, they were part of the British government, or like they like served with the British government. Yeah. So this is like one sample of what the record looks like. Again, like you can see like which office they were tagged to, and then your names, and then like when were they appointed. From this also you can probably find out how much they used to earn when they were working there. Yeah. Another useful resource actually we have in relation to like this type of colonial records, right, is one particular publication by Robert Hustler. So so for his, right, his publication is that he apparently has alphabetical entries of colonial officials in British Malaya. So, and there are various postings before retirement from the Malayan Civil Service. So I think for his publication, it's not just like Singapore, I guess. It's also got expand a bit more to like maybe Malaysia. Yeah. So like that's another publication you can consider. Should you maybe have a hard time thinking, okay, actually were they like posted in Singapore, or were they like Penang, for example? Yeah. Okay, school records. Okay, school records, right, we do have a collection of them, but do note that for our collection, right, we only have the admission registers, we have the attendance registers, and some living certificates. The only crux is basically you can only find us for help if it's before 1982. If it's anything after 1982, please look for MOE because they are the ones who are still holding on to this whole collection for school records. But of course, school records naturally, because it's also still a bit of like a PDPA situation, right? So like normally when people reach out to us for help for school records, right, we always advise the person, if the actual like student who is asking for the school record, best for that person to submit. But of course, naturally, because sometimes you're also looking for like a school record, but it belongs to like a deceased family member. Then of course, the next of kin can submit on their behalf, yeah. So yeah, so this is one sample of what the admission register looks like. Sorry, it's a bit blurred, but it's this bar on top here. Yeah. Most info will just be like the name of pupil, when did they admit into school, date of birth, and then basically nationality, race is another thing there. Behind here we'll also have the parents' name. So like when we say parents, because normally in admission register they'll list it as guardian's name, because back then it was also quite common for like the child's like relative to be the one to admit the student into school. So it might not necessarily be like the dad or the mom. Yeah. So these are easily the type of like direct raw data you really can get from a school record. Yeah. Okay, and then we'll just go next. Okay, marriage records. Marriage records. Okay, so for this set of marriage records, just note that it's specifically civil marriage records. So civil marriage records from ROM actually. If you are looking for any records that is actually very specific date, before 15 September 1961, you can ask the archives to help you. But if any time if it's a record after this very specific date, you have to go to ROM. There's only one simple reason for this. It's because by then it was already, the women's charter was already indicted, like it was already carried out. So for marriage record searches, so according to one of the sections in the women's charter, basically, ROM was actually allowed to authorized to search for any marriage records, as long as there's a prescription. Sorry, give me a moment. One of the inspection upon payment of the prescribed fee by anyone, so anyone can actually ask to search for a marriage record. So in a sense, what they mean is that it don't necessarily need to be someone of direct family member or direct next of kin to be the one to put in the search. So it can be anyone, basically. So that was apparently one of the sections stated in the Women's Charter at that time when they wrote out. Interestingly, that time when they wrote out Women's Charter also, because although that whole charter was also to indicate that yes, every man can only have one wife, that was one thing. They also actually came out with this brochure. So this little brochure was to actually indicate that what were the criteria you need to fulfill in order to be a legal civil marriage. So they had information that's the age must be minimum, I think there's a liner here, 18 and 21 years old, that type of thing. So they actually had actual rules that they listed in the brochure that they actually gave out back then to people. Yeah. So for civil marriages, again, civil marriages, as long as it's not Muslim marriage, one other important thing, Muslim marriage is still maintained specifically by the Registry of Muslim Marriages. So for them, they have the records from basically the earliest date, I think 18 something, yeah. So for them, any date. But for us, yeah, there's a very specific cut-off date. Yeah. Okay. So this is actually one sample of what a civil marriage record looks like. So interestingly, this record, I think one of our ex-colleagues found, interesting, it was a marriage between a princess and a viscount that happened in 1939. Yes, romantically, they got married on Valentine's Day. So they did come across this record, and they actually found a newspaper article about said marriage. Yeah, so this is the actual couple themselves. So this picture was actually taken from the newspaper portal itself. And this side is actually the record. So as you can see again, right, the raw data you can get is also quite similar to a church marriage register, right? You have the date of marriage, you have the couple's name, what was their occupation, and yeah, so you can see this is the type of fields you will see in a civil marriage record. But of course, again, for civil marriage record searches, if for our end, I think in more an administrative sense, if we can find that couple's marriage record search, naturally we'll give you a copy because this is also in line with ROM. But of course, if it's unfortunately an unsuccessful search, just note that it does not mean they were not married. It just means that we don't have their record. So it's a very big difference. But yes, we naturally understand some people, they're how can you tell me unsuccessful? Then how it means they're not married? No, it's not that. It's just not that. Yeah, it can just means that they did a customary marriage instead. So that's why there wasn't an official recording of their marriage, because naturally, even though Women's Charter kicked in, naturally not a lot of couples also went to register their marriage formally with ROM. Yeah. Okay, so right now I'll just try to share with you the resources that our colleagues from the library would like to share with you all today. Yes, but I'm the only representative, so I'll try my best to explain. Okay, so this one is the newspaper portal. Okay, so the newspaper portal basically is our digitized newspapers from the earliest, from 1827 to today. But of course, it will take time to upload everything. But I think the latest date available now is also up to at least 2019. In terms of fully available, because again, it's a long process to upload digitized newspapers. So these are the type of actually newspapers that you can find. So you're doing your family history research. So passenger list is one type. This is a passenger list, okay? And then news of the marriage, so for example, this type, or write-ups. News of death is another type, yeah. For those who were family members who, like y'all think they were in the colonial service, right? Apparently they used to also release like little newspaper articles of like, oh, this person got promoted to this rank. So they would have come in this, where's my mouse? They would have come in this type of format of this type of newspaper write-ups, like this type of announcements. Yeah. Obituaries is also another type of information you want to find about your family member. I think quite commonly for Chinese families at least. Like if we just want to know who else is our aunts or our uncles, yeah, the obituary is always the fastest to find for Chinese families because they will literally list everybody, as you can see. Yeah, then of course this is just a Chinese version of the obituary. Yeah, okay. And okay, so our colleagues at the library, they also came up with like 2 publications that was focused on genealogical collection with entries arranged according to the major ethnic communities. So these were the 2 books apparently that they had published previously. Recent, I think it's not so recent, but they did say it's a bit more recent. So this particular book, I think it was in 2008 that they published the first hard copy, right? They recently just made it a digital copy available here, but it's only for this publication. Yeah. Okay, if everybody's done it, okay, can. Yeah, and then for this trio of books, right? This is like one of their recommended resources for like if you're doing on like Chinese family history research. So these are like the 3 top publications you might want to start off with. Yeah. Interestingly, the third book here, the third book here, this one was apparently a collaborative effort between Singapore Federation Chinese Clan Association, NUS, and also our colleagues from the library. They actually came out with this publication together they did like a survey apparently, and then they compiled a list of clan publications that were apparently not really featured in these 2 publications. So this was like the attempt to like bridge anything that might have been missing from these 2 publications. Yeah. Okay, that's the next one. Okay, so for Malay family history research, one of the books they also recommend is also this. So this particular one, if you can see my mouse, this one here, apparently explores the social cultural history of villages in Singapore. But I think the author, because he apparently was also used to grow up in a Malay village in Bedok. So like for him, he was more invested to like find out about more like social cultural history about like Malay villages back then. So this is one such publication if you're doing Malay family history research. For the Eurasians one, this particular publication for the Eurasians family history one, it traces the origins and history of Eurasian community, delving into the culture of the Eurasians such as their rites and festivals. Yeah, so this is like the 2 other publications normally will recommend to people if they do visit them at the library. Yeah. Okay. So from here onwards, right, these are also the type of private records that our colleagues at the library also have. It's also received as a donation to them. Yeah, so as you can tell, they also have like clan association related publications. They also have like the usual directory of members, credit records. Okay, so they also started collecting the 族谱, where is it? Yeah, this one. So apparently they were sharing with us that this was like one of their more latest donations that they received recently. So it's 族谱, and then I think the 家谱 was another one. Yeah. So these are the type of publications they have. So like I think in terms of like if you're going to use their online catalog to search for information, you will want to use the keyword search like the clan association name that family member is tied to. You might want to use that as a keyword search when using their online catalog. Yeah. Okay. And okay, so for their site there, they have what we call the Straits Directory. So the Straits Directory basically, same thing also. It's quite similar to the Blue Book situation. It's also like, I will call it like the yellow pages of that time. Yeah, so you will find like the employee's name and then which department they were in. Yeah, so this is another way, like again, if you happen to find out that your family member was in colonial service, like this is another resource that you might want to use. Yeah, and same thing also is also an alphabetical listing. Yeah. Okay, so our colleagues from the library would also like to share with you all these 4 quite curated pages that they came up with for family history research. Yeah, so I think it's also a nice starting point. Like if you're someone who's also trying to do this for the first time, like you just kind of want to have a starting point, like, okay, like what kind of publication or like what kind of records do I go and find to start my search? Yeah, they created a list lah, basically. Yeah, so you can also take note of these 4 specific QR codes. Yeah, and then I think that's it from our colleagues at the library. Yeah, so the other resources, yes, okay, so birth and death records, yes, I think I can understand naturally that most people would think the archives will have, but unlike our counterparts in the West, unfortunately, we don't have, okay, because this is also part of like the governing law that it still must be maintained by ICA. So ICA, basically, they have maintained like birth and death records registered since 1872. Yeah, so from what we understand from ICA, it's more of like the next of kin is the only person who's allowed to request for like the birth or death extract of that family member. Yeah, and then yeah, so anytime if anyone still needs to find like the birth and death record of that family member, yeah, they can be reached by the email address there. Yeah, okay. And another thing that people like to ask us also at the archives is for land ownership. So land ownership, again, because if you are finding specific information of like land titles or properties or land information, actually is something that the Singapore Land Authority can answer. Yeah. So again, if you have any, but this is also again if you happen to know if your family members own like their own residence, private residence, that type, then you just want to know how big was the land, maybe for example that kind of thing. Yeah, the SLA will be the platform to go to. Yeah, and they also apparently have their own online portal at this specific website here. So users apparently when they use this portal, you're supposed to try to find the information through using like the address of the property that you're looking for. Yeah. Okay. And lastly, yes, this is another type of records that the archives also normally do get when people visit us. Okay, yes, it's a bit more touchy. Divorce and adoption records, right? Basically for divorce records, because they're only accessible to the parties or solicitors acting for the parties, adoption records is also just generally, of course, like both are confidential, right? But I think in the sense of like who can access them, yeah, there's a bit of a difference on who can actually ask for lah. Yeah, but commonly both types of records, the family courts will actually need you to do a manual search at their place during their operating hours. So it's like this whole process of like you will have to reach out to family courts first, then you just kind of like tell them, oh, actually I'm looking for like my adoption records, for example, and then from there they will advise you accordingly, and then it's more of like whether they approve you to search for said record. And even if they approve for you to search this record, you will have to visit them in person during their operating hours to like search. Apparently, like it's like take the file and then just flip, from what we understand. Yeah. So like for divorce records relating to deceased parties, right? So for this kind, right, if the next of kin wants to obtain any information about the deceased, they need to go to the family register first for further assistance. Then they basically need to visit them with the original death certs and like basically any original document that will prove that yeah, I'm his next of kin, that kind of thing. Yeah. And yeah, so I end it with these 2 QR codes. This Archives Online is our online catalog from the National Archives, and then basically the one on the right is the online catalog from the National Library. Yeah, so you can take note of these notes, and I end my presentation. Thank you.
Do we have time for questions, or are we out of time?
We have time for questions. I'm going to ask the first question.
Yes.
For marriage records and
Yes.
school records and
Yes.
land ownership,
Yeah.
how far back does it go?
For marriage records, so far the collection we have is from 1880. But for school records, I would say the oldest maybe pre-war. But I won't easily say like in the 1800s, maybe. As in before Japanese occupation. Yes. Yeah.
And land ownership?
Land ownership, okay, so for land ownership, because like I was sharing, it's not really under our purview, it's actually also under Singapore Land Authority. So I think for that kind, you all have to ask them. But in terms of like, because if you're looking for like older building plans, maybe for like the 1800s onwards, you can still use our portal first to try to find the building plan. Yeah, but again, it depends on like the time period that you're looking for.
Can it go according to name of owner, or it's just?
Okay, so like to search for the building plan, it's best to search with the address. So like the last known address of that person, it's best to search with that because again, because even though records are transferred to us, right, but the metadata is also easily transferred by the agency. So a lot of the times the information you need to find is like based on how the transferring agency recorded it as, because we also need to follow, basically. Yeah. Yeah. And yes? Yes.
For the school records, right?
Yes.
Would it have like Chinese name of the students and also maybe the parents also?
Some schools, interestingly, I have personally seen some lesser, but I realize it's a lot for those that are like Chinese schools, then they will actually record down the student's name in Chinese. Like, so there's like the English version, right? Then there's another column they will write like the Chinese.
How do we search by English name or by Chinese name?
No, okay, so for this, the school record search, right, it will still be conducted by us, like the staff. So naturally for y'all, it's more of like when y'all put in the request, right, you have to tell us the person's name. You can also give us that person's Chinese name and we will search accordingly to the info that you provided us with.
Would it have the parents' names as well?
For the school records, so far a lot of the community, yes, we have seen some of like the
Chinese name.
Yeah.
So this one would have to request from you.
Yes.
Is there a cost to it or not?
Okay, so if it's an unsuccessful search, right, we won't charge you. But if it's a successful search, then yes, there will be an admin fee that will be incurred.
Okay.
Yes, yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
So you mentioned that you have Clan Association registered.
We have some, and our colleagues at the library have some.
Are those viewable online, or do I need to send a request and then you?
Okay. So I think there are some where the associations are okay for it to be online. So like if you can view it online, basically when you find the, I don't know if I'm not really connected to the internet, but okay, but just kind of try to do a visualization. So like if it's an online access record, right? When you open the page, you'll see there's a literal PDF icon. So if you see that, means that association is okay for you to read the file online. But basically, if you open the page and there's a literal button that says request to view, means that association is like, please ask me for permission first before you read my file. Yeah, but even if you get granted with permission, most of the time is you can only view the file on site at our premises. Yeah.
We have a question from
Yes. Hi. Yes.
I did a search of registry of business.
Okay.
And it does seem like it's only from 1949. Are there any records before 1949?
Okay, because again, I think a lot of the records we have naturally is based on what the ministry give us. So naturally, same thing also. That means like if let's say there's only more records that the ministry decided to pass us for records keeping, right? And it's like 1950, then unfortunately it'll be 1950. But I think if you're looking for older, I think your best bet will still be newspaper portal first to see if there's any announcements of like that business. Because sometimes like business, they will normally like to do like advertisements, right? Like to promote their business, right? So I think that's one way you can use that platform first to find if it's older, then yeah. But naturally for me, I have tried to do a rough search before. I also noticed that there's also like this cut-off time that the other portal will be more useful. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Question.
Thank you. So I noticed that you mentioned that many records, different types of records are actually kept by the different ministries.
Yes.
Right? Education or register of marriages. Is there any plan for them to actually keep the records to the archives to archive them? I mean, since like you said that since the 1980s, many of these departments keep their own records. Is there any plan for them to actually submit the records for the archives to keep?
Well, I mean, to be frank, I think we will also hope that they continue to transfer us records for records keeping in a sense. But again, also because it's quite a affinity thing, I think, in a sense for the archives, because like they can transfer the records to us, but again, if there are some records that they say, okay, the public can't like access or research, right, then yeah.
Law that access, okay. So there's no budget, like a legislation that says, okay, department needs to submit.
In a sense, for now, there isn't like a permanent legislation. It's so, yeah, I think I know where you're getting from. So like, like there's that common law saying like, okay, any author who published the book, you must submit 2 copies to the National Library, right? Or like, there's also the law that says, but if you use any records on National Archives, you must also give us a copy of the book. So there isn't that type of like legislation or like that type of law as of now lah. Yeah. Yes.
We have time for one last question. Anyone?
Yes.
Can the archives help us? Can the archives help us to access records of the, let's say, Netherlands library, Holland or UK or US?
Okay, I would say we can't because, right, it's more of like, okay, so here's the thing. So I think for us, right, when we try to build up our collection of private records, which also naturally is also like the overseas records, like collection, right? Because, like after, I think we, okay, like after that when we gain independence and all that, right, we actually had to scramble to try to find from other institutions, like any records they have about Singapore history. So it's more of like our colleagues were on this situation where they had to do a very big shopping spree to get varying copies of like any records that may be related to Singapore history, because it's also our attempt to try to bridge the gap. So I would say that I think if you use our portal, right, you can try to search with that specific institution you're looking for. So like let's say you're looking for the National Archives of UK, you can use their name, search in our portal, right, and see how many records we have. Then we managed to get a viewing copy from them. But of course, again, naturally, after you search from there, you still have to narrow down like to the type of record you want. Because to be frank, for the UK, right, they have a lot of categories. Yeah. Yeah.
What about Malaysian? The ones from Malaysia.
From the ones from Malaysia,
what about
is it?
birth and death records?
For
Malaysian families.
For Malaysian families, they will still need to reach back to the different Malaysian states actually. Yeah, so we actually don't have a copy.
So the straight settlement records are not accessible online?
No, okay, so the blue books are actually accessible online. So like if you use our portal, literally search with the word blue books and then it will come up in the search results. Yeah.
Alright, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, okay.
So thank you, Clara, for the enlightening overview of how archival records can reveal so much about our roots. Yeah, you revealed very much. There's so many things I want to find out. Yeah, about my grandparents.